In The Psychology of Judgment and Decision-Making, Scott Plous offers a comprehensive and engaging exploration of how humans think, decide, and often err. Drawing from social psychology, cognitive science, and behavioral economics, the book reveals that our judgments are systematically biased and our decisions frequently deviate from rationality, not because we're foolish, but because our mental shortcuts, or heuristics, are both essential and flawed. Plous's central aim is to help readers recognize these pitfalls and cultivate a more critical, self-aware approach to their own reasoning. Plous begins by framing decision-making as something that permeates every facet of life, from choosing a career to forming opinions about global issues. While we like to imagine ourselves as rational agents, the reality is more nuanced. Much of our thinking is intuitive and automatic, governed by cognitive rules of thumb that usually serve us well but can lead to serious misjudgments under certain conditions. Understanding these shortcuts is essential if we hope to avoid costly errors in both personal and societal decisions. A core idea in the book is the concept of heuristics, particularly those identified by psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman. These include the representativeness heuristic, where we judge probabilities based on similarity rather than logic, and the availability heuristic, where we assess likelihood based on how easily examples come to mind. These mental rules often help us navigate complex environments quickly, but they can distort our sense of risk and lead to overgeneralization or misplaced fears. Plous devotes significant attention to overconfidence, one of the most pervasive cognitive biases. People tend to overestimate the accuracy of their beliefs and predictions, even in the face of contrary evidence. This overconfidence affects professionals as much as lay people, influencing experts in fields ranging from medicine to finance. Plous argues that recognizing the limits of our knowledge, and regularly calibrating our confidence, is critical for making better decisions. The book also explores the human aversion to uncertainty and ambiguity. Faced with incomplete information, we often rush to conclusions or cling to known outcomes, even if they are suboptimal. This is tied to our need for cognitive closure and discomfort with ambiguity. Plous introduces concepts like the illusion of control, where individuals believe they have influence over outcomes that are actually determined by chance. These tendencies can lead to risky behavior, flawed risk assessment, and resistance to changing course even when better options emerge. Another theme is how framing and context shape our choices. Drawing on research from prospect theory, Plous shows that the way information is presented, whether as a gain or a loss, can dramatically affect our decisions. People are typically risk-averse when a choice is framed as a gain and risk-seeking when it's framed as a loss, a phenomenon with profound implications for public policy, marketing, and negotiation. The same facts can lead to opposite choices simply by altering the wording or reference point. Social influences are another major factor in judgment and decision-making. Plous describes how conformity, obedience to authority, and groupthink can distort our independent reasoning. Drawing from classic experiments like Ash's line studies and Milgram's obedience research, he illustrates how easily people yield to social pressure, often against their better judgment. He warns that groups are not necessarily wiser than individuals, especially when dissent is discouraged and consensus is prized over truth. Memory and perception also play a pivotal role in how we interpret events and make decisions. Plous examines how our memories are not static records but dynamic reconstructions prone to distortion. We often remember outcomes as more predictable than they actually were, a bias known as hindsight. This makes it harder to learn from experience because we tend to rationalize past decisions as inevitable, rather than reflecting on what could have been done differently. Moral reasoning is addressed with equal rigor. Plous explores how people justify unethical behavior, how moral decisions are often driven by intuition rather than principle, and how framing can affect judgments about fairness and justice. He suggests that our moral intuitions are subject to the same cognitive biases as other forms of judgment, meaning that ethical decision-making is far from objective or consistent. Recognizing these influences can help us build more just institutions and make more compassionate choices. Plous also critiques the limitations of intuition in complex decisions. While gut feelings can be helpful in certain familiar environments, they often lead us astray in unfamiliar or data-driven contexts. He emphasizes the value of formal reasoning, statistical thinking, and probabilistic models in improving our decision accuracy. Yet he acknowledges that these tools are underused because they require effort and often feel counterintuitive to our natural style of thinking. In discussing risk perception, Plous shows that our fears are often disproportionate to actual dangers. For example, people tend to overestimate the likelihood of dramatic, highly publicized risks, like plane crashes or terrorist attacks, and underestimate common but less sensational dangers, like car accidents or heart disease. This skewed risk perception can lead to flawed personal decisions and misguided public policies, where resources are allocated based on fear rather than facts. The book takes a practical turn in its later chapters, offering strategies to improve judgment. Plous suggests becoming more aware of biases, seeking out dissenting views, and cultivating habits of critical reflection. He champions the use of decision aids such as checklists, structured analytic techniques, and devil's advocacy. These tools help slow down our thinking and counteract the intuitive shortcuts that so often lead us astray. Plous doesn't advocate eliminating intuition, but rather integrating it with more analytical approaches. His vision is of a decision-maker who combines insight with skepticism, who respects intuition but tests it against evidence. He believes that cultivating this mindset is not only possible but essential in a world where decisions have ever greater stakes. It's not about becoming perfectly rational, but about becoming more aware of when we are likely to err, and adjusting accordingly. What makes the psychology of judgment and decision-making particularly impactful is its accessibility. Plous presents complex psychological research in a clear, engaging narrative, full of real-world examples and practical relevance. The book is not just for psychologists, it's for anyone who makes decisions, from students to professionals, from parents to policymakers. It's both a manual for clearer thinking and a mirror for recognizing the invisible forces that shape our minds. In the end, Plous offers a hopeful message. While our mental machinery is imperfect, it is also remarkably flexible. We are capable of learning from our errors, refining our judgments, and improving our decisions. By understanding the psychology behind how we think and decide, we can make better choices, not just as individuals, but as communities and societies. The goal isn't perfection, but progress, becoming just a little wiser, one decision at a time.